Ooh, a spicy question. I
Because
love
the
it.
writing is sort of everything, right? Like you kind of can fix plot holes, but if the writing isn't
So some
there,
readers love that, and some readers are like, but I wanted more of this. So it's kind of a gamble.
Hello and welcome back to the Right and Wrong podcast. On today's episode, I am with a New York Times best-selling author who writes all sorts of fiction for both adult and YA. It's Alexine Farrell-Folmuth, aka Olivie Blake. Hello.
Hello. You did it, by the way. That is correct.
I did it.
We had a discussion about pronunciation of Alexine, which a lot of people get wrong, and you did right. And so we're best friends now. And I think
Amazing.
my UK publishers would want me to say that I'm also a Sunday Times bestselling.
And a Sunday Times bestselling. There you go. Lots of best-selling places for here. So, starting things off, always like to talk about your latest publication, the new book, Girl Dinner, which is out October 21st in the US and the 23rd in the UK. Tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, well, Girl Dinner is a satire about a cannibal sorority. It is arguably, I mean, I'm seeing people be a little bit confused about how to refer to it. It's been, sort of filed under horror in a few places, but it's not very gory. I like to bring this up because I think people are like, how do I want to approach this subject matter?
Right.
I like to think of it as more of a psychological thriller. It's not about the act of eating. It's about the decision of who to eat.
Okay.
But the reason that I wrote Girl Dinner, basically Girl Dinner is about two women. It's about a 19-year-old in university. She's a sophomore at an American college, and she is rushing what is called the House. It's the most prestigious sorority on campus. And it represents this, threshold to a successful career, to sort of having it all. The girls that are in the sorority are very beautiful. They're very intelligent. They turn out to be, these incredibly important people in their career. And then there's, so that's Nina. And then there's Sloane, who's an adjunct professor, and she has recently given birth. She has an 18-month-old daughter, and she's just going back to work. And she gets sort of recruited in a similar way to become the faculty advisor for the sorority. And she is also taken in by the alumni, and the way that they too are almost extraordinarily beautiful and accomplished. And so both women are kind of like, what does it take to become this kind of woman? And Girl Dinner is it's me sort of grappling with the idea of the, of femininity culture and what that means and what it means to be a good woman and what feminism is right now. Because I think it's also this sort of generational struggle between the very tired girl bosses. I'm a millennial myself. I was born in 1989 along with Taylor Swift. And, we're pretty tired, right? Like we were told that if we were just cool girls and we were just perfect, and if we were just not like other girls, then we would have everything we ever wanted and it would be fine. And the economy said that's not true. And now we don't really know what to do with ourselves, but we are also sort of alarmed looking at the younger Gen Z that's being really influenced by these conservative online trends. There's the trad wives and the clean girls, and this very sort of alarming traditionalist thing that is very much the exact sort of vibe that could hold all women back. So it's this I wanted to write about that tension, although did I answer any questions? I'm not sure.
Okay, but there's definitely a lot being discussed behind the sort of fun fiction sorority cannibalism stuff.
Right. Of course.
Yes.
Of course. The very fun,
Yeah.
the fun aspect of the book is certainly the cannibalism. That's there for,
yes.
That's purely there for
it's a weird
camp.
Sentence.
Yeah.
Yes. And Girl Dinner is such a good name for the whole concept all tied together. I have to ask, have you ever been in a sorority?
Yes, I was in a sorority. I was actually vice president of my sorority.
Okay.
And I held the role of what I like to joke as like, I was like the supreme judge of sorority court. Like basically if anyone got in trouble, if their grades were slipping or, they had like a behavior issue, if they embarrassed us at an event, and also I'm making light of it, but it is also anything more serious. Like if anyone was suspected of an eating disorder or anything like that, we just wanted to check in with them. They had to have this top secret meeting with me. So for about a
Okay.
year, I was considered the scariest person in my sorority.
Okay.
And that was a very fun and interesting experience.
Okay. So I'd imagine some of that kind of experience and the kind of structure of it is kind of influenced in this book.
Well, I think that people are going to be surprised maybe by the way that this book is not necessarily a condemnation of femininity culture. It is not a condemnation of sorority life either, even though there are definitely problems. I mean, there are definitely a lot of issues baked into the Greek system, of course, but it's also something that it's something that I loved being part of. It's something that made me who I am. I like to joke that I didn't know how to speak girl until I joined a sorority. I just didn't understand how to be part of a large group of women. And I feel like it shaped a lot of who I became. And so it's this very complex love, it's the same when we're talking about femininity as well. It's this very charged and complex thing because there's obviously very complicated debate about, what is a woman, what is gender. And so I kind of wanted to play with and against this idea of what is fun about femininity culture, which parts of it would we participate in if we could, but also what is damaging about it if you can't, if you're not considered, if you're not considered acceptable by these standards, then what does that mean for you?
Yeah. And all of that kind of comes together at a time when, if you're at a sorority, if you're at college, at university, you're at an age where you've left school, you're kind of figuring out how you fit in the world as an adult outside of the sort of childlike, the sort of structures that are put in place for you to kind of shepherd you as a young person. Now you're kind of let loose in the world. So it's really so much to discover.
Yes. I mean, there's a very common, definitely in the US, the idea that a woman would go from her parents' house to the sorority house to her husband's house. And so it's this weird sort of mythical bridge to adulthood, which I thought was so interesting, especially because traditionally for a lot of women, this is the only time you'd get any degree of freedom. And so it was really interesting to both point to all the things that are wrong and also be but some of it was really, really enjoyable and fun.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
Like
great.
the cannibalism. Yeah.
That was the good stuff.
I will say, I think this is I was raised Catholic. And so I'm very easily swayed by the aesthetic of ritual. I really enjoy rituals. And all of Catholicism is a very blood-based ritual. There's arguably some cannibalism in Catholicism. So this really came together. It's the sweet spot for me intellectually.
Okay, that's great. That's cool. It's good to hear. I'd love to get onto a bit about you as a writer and your kind of origins as a writer. Is being an author, has that always been your dream since you were young?
No. So I think that if I told my mother that I was going to major in English, she would have just simply said no. And that would have been the end of it. I actually was just talking to my husband about this because he's a high school teacher. I'm not sure what is that in the UK? Grade 9 through 12.
School.
Okay. Yeah. So he teaches students who are, I should say sorry. I'm trying to figure out how to organize my thoughts going into this conversation. He just changed school districts. He used to work for the school district for the city of LA, which is massive. The city of LA is enormous and it covers all sorts of demographics. And he just moved to a smaller, let's just say wealthier school district. And he used to teach physics and AP physics at the highest level. So he taught it to 11th and 12th graders who are about to go to college. Now he teaches physics and AP physics to younger students. They actually start in grade 9. And so he said the difference is that this school is essentially preparing these kids for what they're going to major in and what their career will eventually be. And he was telling me about all these kids that are trying to prepare for, like, there's different kinds of AP physics. There's some that are for if you know you're going to go into engineering, or if you know you're going to do something where physics is a requirement. And I was like, can you imagine looking a 14-year-old in the eye and saying, choose the rest of your life right now? Like, does that not feel irresponsible as a parent, as a fiduciary member of this community? Like, doesn't it feel like a lie to tell a child that they should know exactly what they're going to become? I have no idea why I started on this rant, actually. Oh yes, that's right. So, but all that being said, like, this is something that I feel right now as someone who was sort of led down a certain path. My mom, you know, I think from the time I was 14, it was all about, like, pick a major that will give you a safe career. She wanted me to major in macroeconomics. I don't know what I would have done with macroeconomics. Like, I think I feel even more bleak about the world. I think what she means is, like, she probably wanted me to be an accountant or in finance, which my brother is. So, you know, but I decided I chose as my safe career urban planning. So I went to school for urban planning, and right away in my first year of university, my professor pulled me aside and was like, you're actually too smart to do this work. I mean, she said it in a very flattering way, but I see what she means now, that if you're working in, you know, in a municipal office, if you're working in government, you're very much like a cog in a machine. And I was very interested in creative problem solving, but you can't really be creative without power. And she recognized that in me and suggested that I become a lawyer instead. It's the kind of thing that always happens if you're a smart girl. People are like, go to law school, babe. So yeah, I ended up getting my master's in urban planning because I graduated from college early because I had taken all those EP classes. I don't know why. And then, and then I went to law school, and I dropped out of law school because it's another place where you're kind of a cog in a machine. You know, as a lawyer, you can only do what the law allows you to do. And so when I dropped out of law school, that was when I wrote a book to, like, just, I don't know, I call it my primal scream manuscript, that I was just like, I don't know what to do anymore. Like, I feel like I've been trying to do all these things that were supposed to keep me safe, but they're driving me crazy. Like, at that point, I had been diagnosed with bipolar. I was really, really struggling with my mental health. Like, I think I had known for a long time that I had mental health issues. But, you know, I'm an eldest daughter. I was like, it's fine. We'll just get through this. And then I met my husband, and I realized I wanted to build a life with another person. And you kind of don't want to be your craziest self around someone whose life that you want to be good and comfortable and easy. So that was kind of around the time that I was like, all right, this isn't working. Like, trying to be safe, trying to be acceptable, trying to be the person that I'm told I need to be is not happening for me. So I like to make the joke that I never wanted to be a writer. It's just that I couldn't do anything else. Like, that it was the only thing that I actually felt like I'm contributing something that I'm, you know, it's doing creative work. This is my best brain. This is the best version of a brain that sometimes likes to try to destroy itself, you know? And I really relate to people, you know, it's that immigrant mindset of just like, I'm here to keep my head down and work. I'm here because I will only be accepted if I am this sort of model immigrant, you know, if I do all these things, and I'll keep myself safe and I'll keep my family safe. And that's just not the case. And so it turns out that I like to be a little dangerous, I guess. I really love rejection and uncertainty. And so I'm a writer.
You're in the right place.
Yes. You know, somewhere in there, I started writing fan fiction, and that was kind of how I realized, like, oh, writing actually makes me feel better. It makes me feel like I'm processing in a more productive way. There are definitely times when I ask myself, like, is this the most useful work I can be doing? And that's just a question I've decided to throw away. That's not a question one can ask themselves.
Yeah. No, I understand. What I have to ask, what was the subject of the fan fiction?
Yes, I no longer engage in this source material, but I wrote Harry Potter fan fiction. I wrote
Okay.
Hermione fan fiction. I wrote a solid 4 million words of it, and it's all still available if you
Wow.
want to read it. It's on AO3 or for the real throwbacks, fanfiction.net.
Okay. OG. I see. Okay. So the writing sort of just happened, and then you were writing fan fiction, and then so when did you first kind of write and finish a novel that was entirely yours?
Well, I have a lot of caveats. Technically, I wrote my first book when I was quite young for a library competition. I like to bring this up because I love libraries so much. So this is my way of saying shout out to libraries. There
Nice.
was a summer writing competition, and I just distinctly remember that I was so surprised to have won because it was the first time I wrote a book. Like, truthfully, it was basically a rehash of Chmura Pierce's Tortall books. I mean, that's what I was into at the time. But there were the other people who had written were boys that write what I now call sword porn. So I just assumed they were going to win, and I was pretty pleased with myself. And then I wrote the book. When I dropped out of law school, I wrote my Primal Scream manuscript. That was about, you'll never guess, a 24-year-old girl having a career crisis.
Good.
She was having, the quarter life crisis. And I did finish it. But then I think once I started writing fan fiction, I realized I think I'm a speculative writer. At the time I thought, I think I'm a fantasy writer. And then, now at this point in my career, I think my publisher would love to find out what kind of a writer I am. I'm like, me too, guys.
Yeah.
So now it's just, ultimately I like variety. Even when I was writing fan fiction, I don't know if anyone listening is a fan fiction person, but I wrote a lot of different AUs, which are alternate universes. So that was my way of exploring genre. I wrote like historical bodice rippers, and I wrote dystopian things that would have been considered dystopian novels. And I wrote like comedy of errors and retold fairy tales. And I was really just sort of playing. It's what I love about fan fiction. I think for me, fan fiction was writing for the love of it, for the art of it. And then I started self-publishing things that I felt were, they were original works, original characters. They were me trying to actually like write a book of, I don't want to say commercial value, but something that is intentional. Like, this could belong on a shelf. And I was trying to be traditionally published. That took a while. It can take a while.
Okay, wait. So you'd written some books at this point, some novels. You were trying to query agents and look for a publisher, and
Yes.
that wasn't working, so you decided to self-publish. Is that the kind of timeline for it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you. You made that a lot more succinct for me. You're so good at this. You should have a podcast. Yes. Okay. So I wrote fan fiction. To be totally honest, what happened with fan fiction is I pissed people off immediately. Like,
Okay.
I should have foreseen this in my actual career, but I take a lot of big swings, I think, in terms of plot and the way I conceive of story. And so like within a year, I would say I had quite a few popular fan fictions, but I also had quite a few people complaining that they were just like, why have you made Hermione Granger a psychopath? And I'd be like, for fun, and so I started to realize, fan fiction is a medium. I'd love to talk about fan fiction because it's actually a lot more similar to episodic TV writing than to novel writing. Like, what you learn when writing fan fiction is essentially how to please a crowd. It's how to build a relationship. It's how to construct a character arc, but it's very, very character based. And it's very, it's also, there are certain expectations with fan fiction. You can kind of mess around with pacing. You can go off on a side quest and that's fine. But people expect to not be totally thrown off by a twist, right? Like, people go in knowing what tropes they want, knowing they want a certain kind of ending. And all of that has to be sort of marked out for you in advance. But I like to write for, I basically like to write for the reader who's willing to follow me anywhere. Because that's how my brain works. And that's not the case with fan fiction. People want what they want, and I respect that. And so it was sort of that at that point, I was like, okay, well, if I want to try writing different things, if I want to write, usually when I talk about my work also, I like to make the distinction between, publishing uses the labels adult and young adult, adult and YA. But I like to consider it more in terms of the experienced reader and the casual reader. The casual reader or the young reader, whatever, is someone who, is either just beginning to read for fun, or reading is not their main form of entertainment. They're going to pick up fewer books a year, which means that they're going to be less familiar with certain kinds of twists, certain kinds of tropes. They're less likely to see a certain motif coming, right? Like that there's certain things that the experienced reader, the adult reader, whatever you want to call it, can see coming, and they kind of understand what kind of story we're in. That's how I think of myself when I'm writing. And I started to realize I want to write for that experienced reader. I want to write for that person who it's not going to wreck them if they don't get what they want,
Yeah. Okay.
We all have expectations to some degree. I think that's the purpose of genre. But we also understand what those hallmarks of genre are as the experienced readers, as the people who love books and love reading. We're more able to recognize them. And so that, I think, kind of gave me the freedom to do less. Oh my gosh, I just thought of a teacher term just popped: scaffolding. My husband was explaining this to me.
Okay.
Yes, scaffolding. It's a I don't know, a pedagogical term or something that's like, if someone is struggling with the material, you scaffold it. So you make it slightly easier. You make something more of a fill in the blank as opposed to open answer. Scaffolding is a way of like showing people where we're going and guiding them to the answer. So yes, so the young adult works. On some level, the fan fiction, there's a level of scaffolding happening, and I didn't want to scaffold for anyone.
Okay, right. I see. When it comes to the indie publishing side of things, it was
Yes.
Atlas 6 was did you do the whole series of Atlas 6, or was it just the first book that was self-published?
Yes. Okay, so the Atlas 6, thank you again for keeping me on track. I will go off track like 20 more times. Okay, so the first book I self-published was Masters of Death, which was honestly a real mess. I wrote it out of order. And I was like,
Okay.
I was really sort of learning to write a fantasy novel. I was learning to reference things that I loved, to like, tonally Douglas Adams, Lemony Snicket,
Nice.
Terry Pratchett, but do it in my own way. I'd like to say that Masters of Death is the most fan fiction-y of my books, because there's many pairings and they all get happy endings. So it's that real bridge in between fan fiction and my original work. After that was One for My Enemy. That's my Romeo and Juliet retelling, except I was like, what if it's Romeo and Juliet, but they come back to life and they're mad about it? And and then wrote a few other things. And then the Atlas 6 was my 9th self-published novel. And at that point,
Okay.
I was pretty frustrated. So during this time, I had been trying to be traditionally published. So the manuscripts that I had queried, one of which was Alone with You in the Ether, had kind of died on the query room floor, as they say. And so when I wrote the Atlas 6, I thought, I'm not even going to bother to try to find an agent for this. What I really wanted to do was experiment with writing a series. I really wanted to see what it felt like, because I'd never written a series before, to develop a character over 3 books. I had it in my head that I was going to do a trilogy, and it was going to be very, very character based. And the structure that I envisioned for the series, when I was talking about this question of like, what is power? Is there such a thing as power that is not also exploitation? I thought, what if we have 6 very unreliable narrators, so that the objective truth or the objective reality is something that the audience has to decide for themselves. It's kind of what lives in between the perspectives. So I can show you what this character thinks, and I can show you what this character thinks and what they interpret. But what is really there is for the reader to decide. And
Okay.
so that was me. That was what I went into it thinking I was going to do. And I wrote the Atlas 6, and I self-published that January 2020. You might recognize the year 2020 as a challenging one.
Yep.
So I wrote the Atlas 6. Then I wrote a book called My Mechanical Romance, which is a young adult sort of forced proximity, opposites attract romance. And that was, and it's young adult, and it was what was sort of hot in the market at the time. I never say to write for the market because like the market is basically just a hallucination that all of publishing is having, right? Like the market is just whatever has recently sold, or that's how publishing sees it.
Yeah.
So at the time I was like, maybe this is a slightly more marketable thing. So I wrote that. I finished it in March, like right after lockdown happened was when I finished that manuscript. I sent it around. I finally got an agent, got that very quickly. I got a preempt from a small house that also happened very quickly. And I was like, oh gosh, I guess I'm a young adult author, which was alarming to me because I didn't have any other young adult plots in mind, or like I had no other young adult ideas.
Right.
So at that point, I put the Atlas series on hold. I knew I was going to finish it. I sort of vaguely knew what was going to happen in the next book. I had written maybe, I don't know, 20,000 words of the Atlas Paradox at the time that I put it on hold. And then I wrote my next YA book, which was 12th Night. I was pregnant. I had my baby. While I was in labor is when the Atlas 6 went viral.
Oh, wow.
Yes, yes. I was like actually in labor. It takes quite a long time, labor.
Can do, yeah.
Yeah, my husband was pretty bored. So he was looking at my my self-publishing. I don't know. I don't like to concern myself with sales and stuff, but my husband loves data. So he was looking it over and he was like, whoa, like something has really happened with the Atlas 6. Like, look at this. And I was like, I am busy actually. And then like shortly after I gave birth, someone had messaged me on Tumblr. I love that sentence. Someone had messaged me on Tumblr to tell me that I had gone viral on TikTok. I don't have a TikTok account, so I didn't know anything about it really. But, you know, once I saw that those numbers were starting to move, I had my agent at that point. So I was like, Amelia, I think something is happening with one of my self-published books. And FYI, I'd really like to get it traditionally published because I knew it was going to be a series. And I really want, like being totally honest, I wanted to get the advance for the other books so that I could make that my main job. And she was like, well, you know, with self-publishing, it's hard. I think this was a very different market than it is now. I think now there's more of an understanding that publishers can kind of acquire self-published books rights and repackage them in a way that is lucrative for them. But at the time, this was not the case. At the time, the previously self-published books that had been picked up were essentially The Martian, I think. Not The Martian. Maybe The Martian?
I think The Martian was. Yeah, I think it was.
Yes. It was originally published as like in like a blog form, I think. And then that was picked up and repackaged. And Twilight was the other one. And so, 50 Shades
of Grey.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
You know, I'm just thinking of things in fan fiction terms.
Yeah.
Yes, the other one was 50 Shades of Grey. And so my agent was like, okay, we got to hit the 50 Shades number. That's what she nicknamed it, which is 10,000 copies. And I was like, well, that's never going to happen. Haha, bye. And then I think within a month, I was like, Amelia, I can't believe it. I feel like my eyes are lying to me, but we've hit the 10,000 number. And she was like, great, send me a pitch and I'll be right back. And then she sent it out to publishers. And I think within not very long, we had a preempt from Tor, and which was incredible. I mean, I distinctly remember I had gone to the bookstore to buy Vicious by V.E. Schwab, and I was in the SFF section with my husband, and I was like, see this? And I pointed to the Tor logo, and I was like, this is what I want on my book someday. So it was pretty crazy. Yeah. She was like, we've got a preempt from Tor, but that a preempt for anyone who doesn't know is you basically have a very brief period of time to say yes. So you don't really have enough time to alert other people. It won't go to auction. You just have to say yes, you take the preempt, and then any other thing you could have taken just kind of falls by the wayside. It's a very sliding doors method of publishing. Mm-hmm. And so with Tor, the preempt was 24 hours. I had 24 hours to decide if I wanted to take this offer.
Wow.
Or, the alternative being to say no, then see if they wanted to make an offer at auction, which is basically letting all the publishers know someone has made an offer, you have to counter. And so, so it's this kind of like, it feels very high stakes because it's like, you have 24 hours to decide if this is the future that you want. And I was like, Amelia, like, yes, towards the dream. Like, absolutely. That's what we want. We'll take it. And she goes, great. I'll ask for more money. Be right back. So anyway, I also, this is my brief moment to also say that if you are a self-published writer, I know it seems daunting that an agent takes 15%, but an agent is always worth it. Okay. Never negotiate a contract with a publisher directly. You need an agent there negotiating for you. There are a lot of scams that target self-published writers. So if anyone ever tries to, acquire your self-published book, you can just email an agent, say that you have however much time in order to negotiate this deal. It's different than querying, and you want someone in your corner. Okay, that's all.
Yes, no, that's definitely worth mentioning. And I think most agents will be more than happy to jump on board to a book deal that's already been offered.
Yes, exactly. To that agent, you're not querying anymore because now you're guaranteed money. So
yes, exactly.
But there are, there are more important things in a book contract than just the dollar amount. It's not just about the money. You also want to pay attention to where those rights are going, and you want the duration of things. And yes, you absolutely want an agent on your side. And I am so grateful to mine.
Yes. And that's an excellent point to round off this half of the episode before we head over to the desert island. And I ask you, Olivie, if you were stranded on a desert island with a single book, which book do you hope that it would be?
I always say that my desert island author is Cat Sebastian. I'll read anything that Cat Sebastian writes, but my desert island book, that would be I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an old one. I read it when I was a teenager, and I have very different feelings about it now. When I was a teenager, I really bought into this sort of love triangle, and I was like, oh, the love story is so beautiful. And now I'm like, Cassandra, please, you're being an idiot. But it's still so good, and it's so wonderfully written, and it feels like having a friend there. So I think I would be well tended to on my island.
Yes,
with that
book. It's always nice to have a book that has stayed with you for a long time, has sort of grown with you. And like you said, it has a totally different meaning, and like you understand it in a different way that you did when you were younger. And that's nice.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the end of the first half. Next up, we're going to chat a bit about craft and writing process, all that fun stuff. That will be in the extended episode, which you can find at patreon.com/right and wrong.
Little Chmura lives in Poland, and so I was really she's Polish, and I'm so excited that if this is going to be published in the UK, it's going to be that much easier for people she knows to actually get it.
Yeah.
Publishing is so tricky with its regions and what's available where, and I'm just like, I was so happy. Thank you, Bella and Tor UK.
Amazing. And that brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you so much, Olivie, for coming on and chatting with me, telling me all about everything that you've been up to in your whole writing journey and life. It's been so fun chatting with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm so in awe of the way that you kept me sort of on track. I'm so impressed. Thank you.
I was scaffolding, right?
Yes.
Am I using it correctly?
Yes, you 100% did scaffold me. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. And thank you to your audience. It was wonderful to be here.
Yes. And Girl Dinner is out October 23rd in the UK, October 21st in the US. So probably by the time most people are listening to this, if you want to keep up with what Olivie is doing, you can find her on socials at Olivie Blake for adult books. And then for her YA books, it's at A Farrell Falmouth. You can also find her on YouTube as Olivie Blake is not writing. Or you can go over to her website, olivieblake.com. And we wanted to flag that there are a few people nefariously impersonating her online. So do you have like a PSA for this or?
Yeah, well, essentially, I'm not on Facebook. So if you ever get approached by someone who purporting to be me on Facebook, it's not me. Okay. And you'll know that it is not me because I would not approach you. I would
will
never
not message
offer you. I will not. I do not offer any paid services. Don't pay me.
Okay.
You can buy my books if you want.
Yes, exactly. If you want to pay Olivie for some reason, you should buy her books. That's the best way to get money to her.
Yes. But if you want help with writing, that I do for free on YouTube. And I don't even know how good it is. I mean, as I just said, I don't have any methods, so maybe ask someone else.
There's plenty of things around. But yes, to support this podcast, like, follow, and subscribe. Join the Patreon for ad-free extended episodes, and check out my other podcasts, The Chosen Ones and Other Tropes. Thanks again to Olivie, and thanks to everyone listening. We will catch you on the next episode.